Hi, my name is Kylie from Stampers Workshop. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator here in Australia. Today I'm making a card using the Bloom and Grow stamp set. This is actually a design which I use a lot, and I thought I'd share it with you because I think you'll find that it is easy and it does look good. All you need is a panel of Whisper White cardstock. I pre-cut my Whisper White into card fronts, so I cut a pack of paper into quarters so I can quickly just grab a card front. I can then cut it down into different sizes, etc. But as a starting point, it just sort of makes it easy. Inking up the stamp with smoky slate, but you could use whatever colour you like. Grey granite looks good, so does basic grey, and even black. It just depends on sort of what look you're going for, but it works. Any of those colours work really great. You can also ink it up, then stamp it off, and then stamp onto your panel. Just something to remember when you do stamp off, and I highly recommend that you do because you don't want it to be too regimented or too even. I also recommend that you re-ink your stamp after every stamping because you'll see that I'm stamping over the edge, and you want to do that from the whole regimented to even look. You do end up with a line on your stamp of ink from where you've pressed firmly onto the cardstock, but then you can see it hangs over the edge, and that doesn't actually take the ink off the stamp. So make sure you re-ink every time, and that is regardless of whether you want to have a first generation or a second generation stamping. The other thing to think about is that if you do have any white space and you don't like it, you can come in with some of those filler stamps and just stamp in those spaces. But to be honest, if you can't, you can kind of maneuver most of these sorts of stamps so that you get a really nice spacing. Oh, and don't worry if you have a couple of little images that you haven't quite spaced perfectly and they touch your previously stamped design. No one's going to really notice that. Like, it just sort of fades into the background, which is what you want it to do. Okay, now I've taken another sheet of Whisper White cardstock, and I'm taking my black memento this time, and I'm stamping up that image again. You can clean the stamp, or you don't have to because you're stamping a darker image over the top. I'm also going to do my greeting at the same time. So this time I'm using the Stamparatus, and the reason I'm using the Stamparatus is because I want to use two colours. Here's my cheats way of doing the sentiment. I want it to, as I say, have two colours. I'm using Lovely Lipstick, and I want that for the lovely cursive font. And then the smaller font, I want that to be in black. You know the easiest way? Just stamp the entire thing in the lighter colour, and then go through with your Stampin' Right marker, this time in the black, and colour over the area that you want to be black. Now, it's so much easier this way rather than, I've tried it all sorts of ways, including using Post-it notes or things like that. See, it just perfectly colours over the pink that was already there. I love my Stamparatus for exactly that reason. It just makes it really easy, you know. Okay, now we're going to colour in that floral image. I'm using my Stampin' Blend, but really you could use whatever colouring medium you prefer. Stampin' Right markers with a blender pen, Stampin' Right markers with an aqua brush, Stampin' Right markers on their own, watercolour pencils with water or without water, whatever you prefer to use, and have an experiment. Just see what you like. You know what you could do? You could actually make the same card and colour it with the different colouring mediums, and then you could see which one you actually prefer. But it's always fun to shake it up a little bit. Okay, let's start colouring. You can see that I'm using Granny Apple Green in the light as a base. Then I come through and I add a touch of the dark Granny Apple Green to give it some sort of highlight, or shadow rather. And then I come through again with the light and sort of blend it together so you don't get that harsh line. I'm not an expert colourist. This is just how I've come to do things over the years. Mostly I go light, dark, light. Occasionally with some images I'll start with the dark and then blend it out with the light. It just is what happens. I can't tell you when I do this. It's just sometimes I feel like that's the way I need to do it. But for this image here, I've followed the colour with the light on the base, add a touch of the dark, and then mostly I've come back with the light again to blend it together. I don't know that I did do it with these little pool party images because they're so small. They're pretty though. I toyed with using Daffodil Delight or, some sort of yellow, even Mango Melody, and I think that would have been really pretty as well. And that's the beauty of this. You could make this same card design so many times and just vary the colours that you've coloured the flowers. And if you're giving them to different people, who is going to know? Stamp up a whole heap of these, put a movie on, just colour them, and then all you need to do is die cut them and add them to your card and you're good to go. Okay, I distracted myself. What I'm doing here is I'm adding Rococo Rose. I used the light and then I've come back through with the darker one. And here's one where I didn't actually come back and blend it together because you don't need to. Also, you can see I didn't colour the entire flower with the pink, and that I've left some white show, and that just shows you don't have to worry about colouring outside the lines. Just have a little, nature's like that. Nature's not perfect. Nature often has little white bits showing, or you could even pretend that it's like the sun hitting it, and that's where it's sort of bleaching out the colour because, sometimes when you look at things, it does look like it has a white highlight. Make it easy for yourself. Don't stress. It's fun. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm using colouring in the bigger image, and I'm using Lovely Lipstick. I've gone through with a light base. I'm leaving white, a little white highlight. That also means that if I do sort of mess it up a little bit, I can colour right to the edge. And if it bleeds and it goes right through to the edge, that's fine as well. So yeah, go through with my light Lovely Lipstick. Now I'm coming through with the darker Lovely Lipstick, and I'm adding that shadow. And just once again, follow how the stamp guides you, and don't stress. I know a lot of people stress about colouring it, but as I said, I'm not an expert, and I think this comes up pretty well at the end. So now I'm coming back with the light Lovely Lipstick, and I'm just going over the top of the dark Lovely Lipstick, sort of blending it out a little bit and sort of making any changes that I think might be necessary, like adding a bit more colour over the white, or a couple of them I might have gone, I've messed up. So now that whole petal is pink rather than pink and white. You could also use multiple colours. You don't have to use just, like in my case, I've just used Lovely Lipstick. You could feel adventurous and blend two colours together, and that can look amazing. So just experiment. Start perhaps with the two colours of the light and the dark, and then you could potentially add in new colours, like two different colours. Now, I thought it looked pretty good as it is, but I do love a little bit of sparkle, so I've gone over all of the floral images with the Wink of Stella in clear, and it just kind of gives it a little bit more of a lift. Who doesn't like a bit of bling, right? See? Pretty. I'm sorry you can't really see how sparkly it is. It's not a really hit you in the face sparkle, it's just a gentle shimmer. Okay, the next step after we've done all that, that's all our stamping out of the way, is I'm getting the coordinating die, and I use a post-it note to sort of hold it in place. I do use my magnetic platform sometimes, but mostly I just grab a bit of post-it note, hold it in place, and it works just as well. It's just habit. And I'm using a stitched square for the sentiment. I've just lined it up, run it through my die cutting machine, and then cut it out. And doesn't that look awesome? Now I'm just playing around with the sentiment. I decided that since I've got a little bit of black, that I'm going to make a frame. So pop that on a bit of basic black cardstock, trim a little border, and I'm using the new paper trimmer. Oh my gosh, you guys, I love this paper trimmer. It's, there was nothing ostensibly wrong with the old paper trimmer, but once you're using the new one, you go, oh yeah, this is amazing. I realise it looks like I ran it through a couple of times, but the first blade, the lighter grey blade, is actually just a scoring blade. So when I pulled it down, it was never going to cut. So then I had to get my other one. And then I thought, oh, I need to just check that I'm happy with the border around it. So I wasn't actually cutting those times. Okay, now I'm going to put it all together. So take some dimensionals, and I undenied about whether I was going to pop this up or not, but in the end I decided that I was. But you could actually adhere the floral image directly to your sentiment panel, but I kind of like a bit of depth and dimension, so I use some pop dots. I think it'll look really cute as a little note card, but today we're making a full-size card. So take a sheet of cardstock, and because I'm in Australia, I'm going to give you the metric measurements. We're scoring it at 14.9 centimetres because I want a top fold card. And then we're going to cut it again at 10.5 centimetres. So I put one, I've got a little Ziploc bag for the other side because that's a perfect card base, ready to go for next time. So I keep all of them in a bag and I can just go there directly for the next time. Now the other bit I love about this paper trimmer is that it makes it easy to measure on both sides of the cutting blade, just so you can really make sure that you get exactly what you want. That was a bit of a slippery background, wasn't it? So I just cut 5 millimeters off, but you could make this background as big as you'd like. I just wanted a little bit of the black border to come through, and I'm just using my snail adhesive to adhere the background down. It's looking really good. Okay, so when you've done that, the next thing is to attach the sentiment panel. You could set it down flat onto the cardstock base, or you could use dimensionals, and that's what I'm doing. You'll see here, because I've already popped up the floral part of it, I need to give it another layer of dimensionals. So I basically just stick the dimensional down, take it off the backing paper and add the next layer of the dimensionals, and that just sort of helps give it that extra lift so it doesn't get pushed down, especially if it's going through the mail. We want to give it every chance of success of arriving there exactly how you mean it to be. Okay, so take off all of the backings and now you can position it where you want to. And I am denied about that. I thought about putting it in the middle, up the top, to the side, and that's where it ended up being. Okay, it looks pretty good, but you have to remember now you've got a black card base, so I like to add white into the centre, into the middle, so that people can actually write on it. So I went through and I grabbed one of my pre-cut panels, and I've cut 1 centimetre off 2 of the sides so that it has this nice centimetre border around. I've gone back to my original floral image and I've inked it up with the smoky slate again, and I've just put a little bit of this image on the corner. I want to make it a little bit interesting, but I still want to give myself or whoever ends up with the card every opportunity to write as much or as little as they like. So I've just added that into the centre of the card, and there you go, finished. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.